Okay, in this short tutorial, I'm just going to cover our channels where and getting our head around understanding that and how that can be useful when um, creating selections using masks. So it's another way of being able to create masks. So at the moment, what I've done is I've opened up two images, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to drag this sky image over onto the one document in the moment. Okay, and what I'll do is I'll just create a layer from background. So I'll just right click layer from background here, and I'll name them as you should always do. Call that tree, the tree, and we'll just call this clouds. Okay, I'm just going to switch the order of these. And what I'll do is I'll just hide the tree and make sure that I've aligned sky to take up the full screen. Okay. Now, if with the tree layer selected, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up here and click on channels. I'm going to do that. Here I can see I've got my RGB value now. This is the colour mode that we're working in at the moment, red, green and blue. So essentially the channels is giving me the colour distribution over separate layers. So if I click here, for example, this is just going to highlight the red, green and then blue. Now, where alpha channels are commonly used, or where I've commonly used them, has been in order to be able to create selections or masks fairly easily. Now, with this tutorial, what I'm attempting to do is that now there's nothing really wrong with this image, but there's a nice clear blue crisp sky, and as you'll notice, if I was wanting to replace this sky, for example, with this image here, this sky, the clouds here, then a good way of going about doing that would be to create a mask and attach a mask onto this layer. But instead of me having to get in and out all these wee bits within the branches of the tree, it'd be handy if I could try and create some kind of quick and easy selection. And that's what I'm going to try and attempt to do just now using the channels. So I'm going to hop back to the channels and we're going to just have a wee look at these again. Now, again, if I select just the red and jump through the green and then the blue, what I'm looking for, and it's the blue layer that I'm planning on using here, what I'm looking for is what's the best contrast between the sky and the image here that I'm planning on keeping. Okay, so if I just jump back through them again, you'll notice the sky's just that wee bit greyer, so it's a bit closer, and even more so there with the red. However, when I go into the blue here, I've got this better contrast between the sky and the tree, and that's because of this blue layer is picking this up as being white. It's a lot stronger because that's predominantly blue within the image. We don't see any other blue really anywhere else. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a copy of this channel layer, and I'll keep that just as my blue copy, or my blue or intended mask, maybe we'll call it that, just to stop any confusion. So I hit OK. There is my intended mask. Now, what I'm planning on doing with this layer is, if I just turn that off so we can see, what I intend to do is I'm just going to move this up. In fact, what we'll do is we'll keep it there. We'll go up to image adjustments. For some reason this isn't like, there we go, sorry, image adjustments, and we're going to go to threshold. Okay, so I've got, the only layer that I have selected at the moment is the intended mask. Sorry, I realised that I just had that hidden there and I was on had the blue layer revealed above it. So with on the intended mask layer within the channels, we're just going to go to image adjustments and select threshold. Okay, now this brings up my kind of my levels between black and white, and this is how I'm going to be able to try and create the silhouette effect on the mask for the tree with all these wee gaps. So I've got my preview button checked. I'm just going to play about with this slider, okay? Now, having used masks before, we're familiar with the fact that what we're trying to gain is kind of that clean-cut contrast between black and white, where we kind of use the black and white to our advantage to reveal or to hide, you know, an object underneath, or an object that's an image perhaps that's maybe placed inside. So I'm just going to drag this slider along, because the only thing that I'm looking to try and keep white on the screen is the gaps between the branches and the trees. Okay, now if I start going too far, I can start to see this black creeping in, which is not really what I'm looking for. So I'm just going to go back ever so slightly, and you'll see I've still got lots of different wee speckles, but the main big areas that I'm looking to have silhouetted out through this process seem to have appeared okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to okay that. And similar to how we've used masks before, or if you've never used masks before, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that I have a kind of solid black against white silhouette. So I'm going to grab my brush, and with the colour black selected, I'll just increase the size of it. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to clean up, paint over any of these wee speckles that I don't want. Okay, I don't want any elements of the sky coming through there. As far as I'm aware, this perhaps was maybe a gap between trees in the background, so I'll leave that as it is at the moment. Now, these tiny wee speckles aren't big enough really to be picked up, so what I'm going to do is just try and clean up as many of these as I can quickly for you. And I'm leaving, or choosing rather, to leave those larger areas where we can see through the tree. Okay, so you should be able to get the idea. That's now, depending on what it is or what image you're planning on, you know, kind of using this technique for, or using the advantages of having channels, it tends to be where you're trying to isolate or quickly isolate rather a main body or selection of colour, okay, which is why those channels are there, because they break up any of your images, whether you're working in RGB or CMYK. The channels will be split up into corresponding colour allocations or colour layers within the channels. Okay, so what we'll do is perhaps maybe leave it at that. We could be here all day trying to tidy all this up, but for the purposes of this tutorial, just maybe leave it at that. Okay, now what we're going to do is I'm just going to click here onto my RGB to bring back the colour over the whole image, and you'll notice that this is what I'm looking at. My intended mask is hidden. I'm going to go back to my layers. Now, these alpha channels, as I said to you, are kind of almost represented as masks in a way, or a selection, as it isolates different colours which make up the body of the RGB image. If I go up to select and load selection, I'll be able to load any channels that I have. So this one in particular that I'd made was my intended mask selection. And when I OK that, you'll notice I now have these marching ants dancing around the image, including in between the branches, which is exactly what I was looking for. Okay, this wee bit here I'm not too happy with, so what I'm going to do is, using my add to selection, I'm just going to, subtract from selection, forgetting what I'm doing here. I'm going to take that away so it's no longer part of the selection. Now, if I was to apply my mask, what's going to happen is I intend to apply the mask to reveal the layer below it. But when I apply the mask just now, you'll see what happens if I click on the mask. Okay, it's done the opposite from what I was looking at to do. It's used, the black area here has done its job, and it's removed from the image to reveal the layer underneath, but it's kind of gone the opposite way about. So I'm just going to step back and undo that, and I'm going to invert my selection to make sure that it's flipped round, and it's going to now work the other way. Turn on my mask, and here we go. You can see that the black area has now disappeared, which is what I was looking for, was the sky, and it's revealed the image underneath. Okay, now if you're looking at this image, you'll notice that it's nice, it's worked out quite well for me in between the branches of the tree, even though all those wee speckles we were cleaning up seems to have done the work, and a nice kind of clean line along the tree line. However, down here there's maybe a couple of wee areas that maybe just need tweaked or tidied up, and that's just a case of working with your mask, jumping between your black and white and the brush tool. Okay, now there's just one last thing that we're going to have a wee look at in this tutorial, and that's working with layer blend modes. What I'm going to do is I'm going to try and generate a vignette effect on top of this image, and in order to do that I'm going to create a new layer. So I've generated a blank new layer, and using the colour white I'm just going to fill that layer. Okay, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to apply a filter effect, which is lens correction. If I go to here and select it, and under the custom tab, just reading down here, I have this vignette amount, and I'm going to drop that down to -100, and you'll notice that I start to have this kind of almost spotlight, you know, darkened edges of the rectangle or the canvas area with a highlight in the middle. Now, that's clearly a layer on top of all my other layers that I have. It's hidden all the work that I've already produced. If I drop the opacity, I would be able to see through that. But what I'm more interested in looking at here is this option here, which is your layer blend mode, and that's how this layer blends with any other layers below it. Now you'll notice that it's at normal, which means it's not doing any blending. There's nothing happening. It has no effect on the layers below. However, if I looked at a particular layer blend mode called multiply, what it's going to do is remove all the white and leave the black area, and you'll notice that this is exactly what's happened. Okay, the white area has been removed to show through the layers below, whilst the darkened area around the edges has remained. Now, there's a number of different layer blend modes that you can use, and these don't necessarily need to be applied with just a solid fill colour. They can also work with shapes or layers on top of layers. For example, if I go to here and decide to choose a different layer blend mode, it's going to affect the image that's sitting underneath it, okay, despite the fact of there being a mask there, okay. This technique, however, does require the multiply blend mode in order to be able to keep the dark edges and remove the white. If I went to screen, it should do the opposite way, in which case the black is removed and the white stays, as you can see. Okay, so there is certainly on Moodle, if you're watching this video based on the PDA digital imaging class, there is a document I've put up there which explains the difference in what each of these do. In some cases it's worthwhile popping up even a solid coloured solid fill layer. Maybe just do that just now, and we'll choose this red colour, and just running through some of the different layer blend modes to see what effect they might have on your image. Okay, and with a mask on it, you can play about and do what you want, remove it, and maybe have it just affecting a certain area of the image. If I wanted to make this red tree, okay, and that would just defeat everything that I've just done, I guess, in terms of the selection, the way that we went about creating a selection. Okay, so that's layer blend modes, and that's worth having a wee look at, see how they can affect your images and perhaps help you with some of your compositions. Just pop that back to multiply for you, and that's that end result. So you could have a wee bash at that tutorial and see how you get on.